Okay, hello everyone. I can see around 70 people joining, which is very, very interesting. However, this will be a little bit limited into the interaction or interactive um, uh, training. However, we will try our best just to listen to your opinion and take questions as much as possible. I would like you to write your questions in the chat, raise your hand, and I will maybe because I will be sharing my screen, I cannot see your hand, but my colleague Kata can collect all of that and let me know. So let's start. I will be sharing my screen. Please confirm that you can see my screen by saying something because I cannot see you.
No, I cannot see, at least me.
Okay. Share. Now you should see.
Yes, that's great.
Yes. Yes, we see.
Perfect. So before we start, we want to let you know that this training is part of the EU4Health Project, and specifically for the national societies who will be working on the PFA for children on the third component. However, the EU4Health was very generous that they wanted to share all of this knowledge with all national societies. That's why we share the invitation to everyone. Oh, I think I need to do something to remove this. So don't know why, but anyway, that's okay. And so we will have three consecutive sessions. Each session is 2 hours. Today we will talk about the introduction to MHPSS for children. Tomorrow we will talk specifically to the PFA for children. And the third day will be more of a practical day, how to implement PFA and the MHPSS intervention for children inside schools and within the community. So this will be our general idea. However, in each day we will have a specific agenda. Let's move on to the first agenda of the today. For today, we will talk about child protection. We will talk about what are the MHPSS needs for children, and we will also ask about common stress reaction for all age group, which will be covered by my colleague Kata. And at the end, we will talk about what is MHPSS for children. So I thought maybe it's good before we start dig into our topic. It's good just to have a little bit of information, general information about the global estimate or the global data estimates about the children. 50% of all mental disorders begin at the age of 14, which is something really, really alarming. That's why we need to take care of the mental well-being of the children and also keep our eye on to determining and investigating how mental health, how the children mental health can affect their development in the future. So worldwide, it's estimated that more than 30% of adolescents aged by from 10 to 19 with a diagnosed mental health disorder are diagnosed with mental health disorder, and unfortunately suicide is the fifth most relevant cause of death for adolescent boys and girls from the age from 10 to 19. That means 11 one child commits suicide every 11 minutes. Children and young people also report psychosocial distress that may not raise to the level of epidemiological disorder. However, these psychosocial distresses or problems will disturb their life, will affect their prospects in the future. Also, it's the effect of mental health for children and adolescents can persist throughout their life, and it will cause serious health, education, and socioeconomic situation. That means that mental health significantly influence a long life lifelong outcomes in academic, social interaction, and economic success. And this is something that most of us actually know, and we know that how much it is important. But in the meanwhile, not a lot of intervention happens for the children. We know that it is important to work on the mental health for the children. However, in the school, this is not prioritized. In the school, it's more about mathematics, humanities, English. We, teachers or academic system prioritize these topics over the mental well-being of the children. And also, high socioeconomic deprivation limits access to the mental health. And we all know that migration and conflict and can affect the socioeconomic situation, and also can affect the psychological well-being of the kid. Which will increase the mental health or the risk of mental health problems. Severe adversity can lead to stress response, reflecting brain processing, hindering learning and thriving. And this is not only in a specific age. This will be continued with the child throughout their life. And students facing mental health challenges tend to achieve lower level of education attainments. So this is some kind of the information from the UN Convention for Children. And I think this is really give us a little bit of a framework of why it's important just to work on the MHPSS for children, and how much it will prevent the children, or it will prevent a minor psychosocial problem to go into a mental health disease or a mental health illness or a mental health problem. Any questions so far? Because I can see 18 message in the chat, but I cannot see it.
Yeah, there is one quick question about whether national societies will receive any materials by the end of training.
That's a very good question. Actually, all presentation will be shared. Plus, we will share all the references and the material that this presentation was taken from. So a lot of hands out and the presentation as well. All is good. Let's move. Who is a child? So, according to the UN Convention on the Rights of the Child, defines a child as every person below the age of 18. Unless under the law applicable to the child majority is attained earlier, some of the countries maybe consider 16 or 15 as adulthood. However, it's under the UN Convention, we say under below the age of 18. So childhood is understood in a different way around the world. For example, some culture define adulthood not by age, by the onset of puberty, and maybe it's different from one culture to another. There's a question here: is how is childhood defined in your culture? Is it only age or social roles? I would like to hear from one person. If I have hand raised, I don't know. Kata, do you see a hand raised?
No, I don't see one yet.
Okay, so if there's no one wants to share, but in some of the culture, especially for child marriage, they don't wait for the age of 18 to consent marriage. Some of them consent the marriage at the age of 15 because the girl or the boy hit puberty, which is a little bit concerning, but this is part of the cultures in some parts of the world. Okay, moving on. What are the child rights? Of course, the child has the right to play, to healthcare, to be with the parents, to freedom of expression, freedom of association, freedom to right to get information, to education. So it's a long list. At the end, I put 3 dots because it's never it. As a human being, they have a long list of rights. But it's really important to know what is child protection. Child protection is the prevention and response to abuse, neglect, and exploitation and violence against children. If we have to go through each one of them, which is I will not, but abuse, neglect, and exploitation and violence are the four things that we need to protect the children from. And before we start working with children, we need to be very, very careful to implement the child safeguarding policy. We have the safeguarding policy in the IFRC to work with children, and also we have the guidance note for working with youth for any event involving children. And this is really important. What does it mean, safeguarding? It refers to the obligation to ensure that the designed interventions are are in the best interest of the child. We do not expose children to adverse impact, including the risk of violence, abuse, exploitation, or neglect, and that any concern about children's safety within the communities where they work are appropriately reported and responded to. This is really important. So I would like to ask you for before you start any MHPSS intervention or PFA for children, I want you to work with your national society to find an internal child safeguarding policy. Most of the national societies has this policy. However, if you don't, you can use the IFRC safeguarding policy. And I put these policies in the link. So if you click here, you can find the policy from the IFRC, which is you can use and adopt. Okay, going back. Okay. Also, it's very important when we talk about children is to talk about how the community, the family, the culture affect the development of the child. So I will start talking about something maybe most of you is familiar with is the social ecological model, which is a model was invented in the 70s, and it's used in many themes like health and social interactions, but it's mainly if we want to use it in the psychosocial support or the MHPSS, it's really important to see how family affected the child, how the community affect the family and the child, and of course, how the culture and the society affected the child. And also there's other factors that will affect the child development or the well-being or the well-being of the child, which is physical development. It will affect the physical development, cognitive development, and also social, spiritual, emotional development. This is really important, and in the next slide we will talk about what are the protective factors that can protect the child from further harm, and also what are the risk factors that when we see them that it alarm us that this is might be a case that we need to take care of and work more on this in this. And also there's another model, which is the well-being model, and I'm sure that most of you also heard about this. And this is really important because when we trying to design MHPSS interventions, or when we try to design any interaction with the children, we need to know what will enhance the well-being of the child. Is it the social interaction? Is it the spiritual? Is it the mental? Is it the emotional? Do we need to take care of the physical needs of the child? How are we going to do it? Is it a participation approach? Is it more of an MHPSS interventions into different like integration into different activities like health, like education? So this will affect different aspect, and we will talk more about this maybe in the third day. But I wanted to give you a little bit of theoretical background around it and how we can um, work with the children. Any questions so far?
I
Patterns?
don't see I don't see a hand or a message in the group chat, so I think we can.
Perfect. I want to also say something about participation, which is one of the approaches that we truly recommend when working with children, which is child center as child center interventions, which is including the child and the in the process of designing, implementing any MHPSS intervention. So it's include participation. And sometimes it's a little bit weird because we say, okay, this is a child, how they can interact, how they can participate. However, it's really important to understand that participation for children is different than adults, because participation, that means that we are talking to children, that we are assessing their needs, that we are just asking the right questions in the right way. This would be considered as participation from the children, which is really important. And as I said before, asking children, interaction with children, it's tricky, and at the same time it's need to be taking into consideration all the safeguarding policies. Okay, now we will go to the risk factor versus the protective factor. And as I said, risk factor, it's an any attributes, characteristic, or exposure that increase the risk of developing any adverse mental health outcomes. At the same time, protective factor will be any attribute, characteristic, or exposure that reduce the risk factor or independently act to increase positive outcomes. So I would ask you a question now, and this is need a little bit of participation from your side. An individual, family, school, community, and macro level, can you think of risk and protective factors for children? I would ask you to think about a protective factor and a risk factor, one of each, on a individual, family, school, any one of these. You're welcome to answer. Solly, yes, please.
Hi, can you hear me?
Yes.
Hi. So at family level, maybe if the parents are still together, if there's any abuse in the household, or if there's a safe, like a psychologically safe environment. And then at school, if there's bullying, or if they feel safe at school. Yeah, community can be community practices that can be both positive and negative.
Okay.
And at macro level, maybe what's going on in the country, whether there's like any unrest or like political unrest, or if there's natural disasters, or
Thank you,
so
Solly.
yeah.
That's perfect. Yeah, that's
I'll
really, really good. This is the risk factors, but Solly has shared with us. Somebody care to say any protective factors?
Yeah, actually, it's mentioned in the messages. Protective factor can be self-efficacy, high self-esteem, high CSC from Monica, Lithuania.
So this would be an individual level, some on a family level. I'm sharing my screen so you can see the answers even.
Yeah.
So yeah, thank you. That's really important when we say family risk factors, like parents are still together. Maybe the caregiver have experienced trauma before. This is a risk factor. However, on the other hand, we can say protective factor when there is a mother's education, quality of a home environment. So the opposite will be something can protect the mental health of the child. On a school level, it will be having a school counselor, having MHPSS interventions inside the school, which is the thing that we want to promote, we want to do more. On a community level, if there is a community cohesion, community acceptance, of course, on the opposite of the other factors, it will be the disruption of social networks. And the macro level, of course, it will be if there's a conflict, as a risk factor, as a protective factor, it will be supportive policies and legal frameworks. trust in the national system and government. So there is a lot of things that could be taken into consideration. Of
Sorry,
course,
Ala, I have to stop you. The chat section, it says that the Ukrainian translation doesn't work. Can we
oh,
do
Yeah,
something about it?
I just checked. It's working. Um,
maybe Gulzera, can you guide them a little bit how to do it?
yeah, I will.
Okay, good. I can still see people. So I will stop here. And I will hand it over to my colleague Kata, who will walk you through the common reactions of all age groups. Kata, over to you.
Thank you, Ala. I would just like to ask if the translation problem is solved, so we can move on.
No, not yet. Um,
So meanwhile, we can just see if there's any questions
yeah.
or comments of the
Irina,
previous
can you hear
section.
me? Irina, can you hear me? Oleg, can you hear me?
Yes, I'm hearing you, but before it's only English version, and like
Oh
for me that was
yeah.
okay, but it's not working.
Yes,
Thank
Oleg,
you.
can you hear us? And are you Oleg? Yes. Yes, but I cannot hear him for some reason. Is he translating? Because I could hear your translation, but not Oleg's one. Yeah, let me. Yeah, I'm.
So how are we in time-wise?
We are very good. We are
Okay,
ahead
Yeah,
of
good,
mute
us,
you for a
so
while, Irina. That would
good,
be nice
perfect.
because I already.
I tried to mute Gulzera, but she managed to unmute herself all the time.
Irina, could you take over? Yes, yes. Thank you. Thank you.
okay. So, can you hear me in all of the languages? Is everything working? Yeah, okay. Now I will share my screen and please tell me if you see the presentation.
Yes.
Okay, thank you. Well, I don't see anyone now, so please just raise your hand, write in the chat section anything that comes to mind, and please let me know if there's a question or something. Okay, so first of all, I see that many of you are psychologists and many of you work with children. So I don't think that I will tell you anything new, but I can also see that there are people from many job opportunities. So I would just like to share with you some of the common reactions of all age groups when there's a crisis situation. So we will be talking about children, how they react to crisis situations, and later we will just see every age group and how it is different. So first of all, I would like to tell you that I will talk about the normal reactions. So, when a child who is developing normally um, faces some kind of difficulty, they will react somehow. And there are some signs that we have to be able to see and watch those signs, because they tell us how the children feel. So some common reactions that are in all age groups are signs of fear. Maybe they fear that the event will take place again. They worry that their loved ones get hurt, or they are afraid that they will get hurt. Very, very common is a fear of separation, or we can say separation anxiety, which is a strong fear of being separated from the caretakers, the adults, or even the siblings. Some somatic reactions are very common, like crying or sleep disturbance, or maybe even eating disorders, changes in hyperactivity level, maybe changes in their the focus, how they are able to concentrate on their tasks, and other cognitive functions. So now let's see how the toddlers and the infants react to crisis situations. Because they have limited language, they cannot really talk, they cannot really express themselves in a manner how adults can express themselves. So we have to watch how their physical activities are changing. Is there any change in their physical activity? Like if a child used to run around a lot, like a 2-year-old, or talk a lot, gibberish, and after a crisis situation they stop doing that, that's a sign. We have to be attentive to that.
Sultana, I hate to
Yes.
interrupt you. Can you put your slides on a presentation mode and move the slides, because you're stuck on the first one?
Oh, I've already moved it, so I will try to do it again. Do you see it changing now?
Yeah, now it's working.
Okay, cool. Thank you. Yes, so they have limited language. So they only understand how the adults and other children behave around them. So they will only understand if they see a nervous adult. That means that possibly they will become nervous. So they don't really understand what's happening. They don't really understand a crisis situation. They only see if someone is crying, or someone is in a bad mood, or things like that. It is very common. Do you see the changes now?
No, it's still in case example. Did you move?
Yes, I did move it.
Okay, now
Now
it's
I see it.
yeah, it's
Yes.
Okay, then I will just stay with this because I think it's more practical. Okay, so yes, they cling more to parents. It's very common that we see a regression in the behavior. Like if there's a 3-year-old who is already potty trained, they will probably wet the bed again, or just forget to go to the toilet while he or she plays. Or regression like thumb sucking, or extreme fear in darkness, or things like that. We can see maybe changes in sleeping or eating patterns. Toddlers and infants usually show their anxiety or their feelings with crying and irritability. So they become frustrated easily. They lose their patience easily, and they might be afraid of things that they didn't frighten them before. So here's an example of a 2-year-old Elena who was in a car accident, and she and her father were injured. Luckily, other passengers were unharmed but still shocked. And after that car crash, the accident, for several weeks, Alina refused to sit in the car because she would remember the car crash and she wanted to avoid it. And she became nervous and agitated when they were going to like shopping or going to the kindergarten. So that's just an example of how a reaction can appear in a toddler. Okay, moving on. Yes, I said hyperactivity, and we can see also poor concentration. So maybe before a 3-year-old would be able to sit down and play with dolls or little cars for. Sorry, I couldn't hear it. Okay, is there a question?
No, I think you can continue. I think
Yeah.
somebody just unmuted themselves by mistake.
Okay, that's totally fine. All right. So maybe if 15 minutes without disturbation, maybe this time would be only 5 minutes after a crisis situation or something, some emergency. They are very sensitive to how others react, and this is because of the limited language. Because, as I said, they rely on others and the other children, and they are very attentive to how the adults and caretakers react to different kind of situations. I'm sure that you have experience when maybe a child smashes her head to the desk, and maybe you or others reacted with, "Oh, there's a problem," and then the child starts to cry. But if he smashes his head and I just don't react like that, I don't panic, I just say, "Oh, are you okay?" Then the child can be calm also. So this is how we can help them with these crisis situations, that maybe we try to show less of our nervousness or our agitatedness to them, because they will automatically cling to that and they will behave nervously and agitatedly. Okay, so yes, this is also very common that they will. I'm sure that you know that there's a time when the 2 or 3-year-olds try to start to throw different kind of fits and tantrums, and this is very normal. But if this happens more frequently after a crisis situation, we have to be attentive to that and have to take care of that, and we have to be patient, because these tantrums and fits are usually just the expression of their frustration. Because they have limited language, they won't be able to say that, "Mother, I'm afraid that you will be gone and won't come back forever." They will just feel something. They will feel discomfort, but they cannot tell us how they exactly feel. So that's why they become more agitated, and these tantrums usually are about those kind of fears and those emotions. Is there any question for now, or can we move on to the next age group?
I cannot see
Okay.
anything in the chat, and there's no hand, but
All right,
please feel
okay.
free to unmute yourself and ask any questions.
Yes, and as I saw that many people is here, and from many nationalities, so I'm very curious about the other cultural experiences, because I'm sure that there are some, and I would like to listen to those. So please feel free to share and raise your hand. Okay, let's move on to the 4 and 6-year-olds. they understand us a little bit better and they can express themselves a little bit better. So this makes a little bit easier to understand how they exactly feel, but it's still a little complicated. Usually, these kids are very centered around themselves. We call this egocentrism, and it's totally natural, and they only think about themselves. So they don't really care about how others feel, but it's very, very natural. But they don't really understand the consequences of the emergencies. So we shouldn't be impatient with them because a 5-year-old won't understand that we have to hurry because we have to meet them. They won't understand this. We have to explain it in their language. And yes, they have a little bit of understanding of cause in and effect, but they cannot really understand that like death it's forever. If a person dies, then they won't come back again. They don't really understand this concept because this is how they develop. They have something called magical thinking, which is, I think, very special. And sometimes we should be able to think in these fantasies because adults get very sad sometimes. So we can learn a lot from this magical thinking. It's very creative. But we can see in crisis situations this magical thinking. Let me share you an example. I've met a Ukrainian boy, 5-year-old, who had to flee his home because of the war. And they had to pack their things very, very quickly. And he could only took one bear out of his 5 bears. And after a while, well, when they were settled, he would just constantly cry because he left the other 4, and now he said that one little bear misses his home. But actually, what this is about, that maybe that boy really missed his home, and he just projected this feeling to the little bear, and this way he could express himself. So with this age group, we have to look after this kind of cues. We have to watch how they play because they will play everything that happened to them over and over again. This is a natural. It's very natural. This is how they deal with their experiences. But we can learn a lot from those plays because that way they can express themselves through their play. They also cling more to parents or adults if something bad happens to them, which means that the parents won't be able to go even to the toilet or even to discuss something with another adult. So this would make the situation of the adults a little bit harder, but it's very natural. They can also regress to younger behavior like thumb sucking or, again, wetting the bed or encopraises. They can, maybe if a 5-year-old was able to talk in full sentences after a crisis situation or an emergency, it can happen that he or she will stop talking. I've met a little girl who was 4 years old, and she was living with something we call mutism. Something bad happened to her parents, and The little girl didn't really understand what exactly, but she was very, very anxious and very, very agitated. And for a while, she couldn't talk after in front of any other adults, only her parents. And after a while, when her parents solved that crisis and were able to feel healthy again, the little girl could talk again. So mutism is also a sign of anxiousness. Sleep disturbances are very common, including nightmares. Maybe nightmares also common in in toddlers, but as they have limited language, we didn't really know about that. So these kids can share now their nightmares and their bad dreams with us. Maybe we can see changes in their eating patterns. Maybe they want to eat way more, or they refuse to eat. Both of them are very common. They become easily confused because of that magical thinking that I was talking about. They cannot really tell fantasy from the real world. So if something happens in the real world and something other happens in their head, they can easily confuse those two. And in a crisis situation, this would make very difficult to adjust to the new reality for them. We can also see some of the kids take on adult roles, which is common if the parents are separated, or one of the parents is very, very depressed, or feeling down. Then the kid would take on some of those roles. It's usually the older siblings, if there are siblings, and they would take on some of the adult roles. Okay, is there any question to this age group, or is there something that you would like to share from your experience, or did you hear something like this? Can you relate to these 4 or 6-year-olds? Okay, I do not hear
Nothing.
anyone sharing. Okay, that's perfectly fine. I know that 80 people is just a lot. I am nervous to share in front of this many people, so I understand. But you're very welcome to write something in the chat if that's more comfortable for you. Okay, then let's move on to the 7 and 12-year-olds. So as they develop, they have more understanding of the world. They link together cause and effect. They can divide between risk and vulnerabilities. They are more interested in facts, so we can talk about what exactly happened, of course, in their language. They now understand that death is forever, so that may cause very, very intense grief and very a deeper understanding of loss. Their cognitive functions are improving, so they are able to understand their emotions better. They are able to express their emotions better, and they experience more emotions like guilt or failure or anger, and this might cause moodiness, or we can see them as they are moody, but actually they are just experiencing some new kind of emotions, and they are still in this kind of magical thinking, but they are more open to the real world. So this may confuse them again. We can see that some of them may retreat to fantasies and refuse to live in the real world, but some of them, after a crisis, just let go of the fantasies and just see the world as it is. It's very usual that they, at this age, they think in black and white. They only understand that there's good and there's evil. There's no in between. They only understand right and wrong, and this may make it more difficult to understand those kind of feelings because it's just ambivalent sometimes. Some of the common reaction is that they would want to talk about the emergency or the crisis constantly. They would talk about it in a repetitive manner, or they won't talk about it at all. That's also a common reaction, that they would refuse to talk, maybe talk at all. I've met a 11-year-old boy who was refusing to talk. For some weeks, he didn't talk at all, and after a few weeks, he would open up slowly, but very slowly, only to me, not other adults. So he had some trust issues, but after a few weeks, we could work on them, and he would be able to open up a little bit more, but it took a very, very long time. So that was example for an opposing silence. It is common that a crisis situation or an emergency affects negatively their memory or concentration. And we can see this as their grades in the school might deteriorate, or if they had so if they had a game that they really like to play, maybe a board game, they won't be able to concentrate for half an hour to that as they did before. Maybe they would just be able to concentrate for 10 minutes because their mind is just loud, and is the bad experiences just take on over their focus, and they lose focus and concentration. And this usually this could happen in schools also. So it's very important to be attentive to the grades, because we can see if the child is feeling worse, and when he or she needs help. They are able to think about other people now, because they are out of this egocentric thinking. We call this decentration. So they are concerned about other affected people now, maybe their friends or other relatives, or the people who they don't even know, but they know that this and this happened to them also. They become more concerned about them, and this is also a new feeling which they have to get to know. And we often forget that it's very very hard to get to know ourselves this way. Aggression, irritability, and restlessness is also common. Sleep and appetite disturbances, as you can see. And self-blame and guilt feelings are also common. And now they can express this also with their words. Okay, is there any question or some story that would you like to share to this age group?
Nothing in the chat, but I also encouraged the participant just to share or ask questions. This is your time to comment. Okay.
Okay, then let's go on. So now let's see how the teens react. Normally, this is a time for searching their identity. And this is a time where the peers become more important than family, the parents, or the siblings. And because of this, they can seem more self absorbed and they can seem more. Self-absorbed, sorry. So it is very common, but as something happens to them, like a crisis or an emergency, this self-absorbance can cause very intense guilt feeling because a thought will appear in their, sorry, the timing. Okay, I love you're in time, right?
Yes, we are. Yes.
Okay, sorry. All right, so they can seem very self-absorbed in times of crisis also. Um, as their cognitive functions improving, they are able to understand the perspective of others also, and they have a deeper understanding of consequences to themselves and consequences to others, to the all of the world maybe. And they will feel a sense of responsibility, which becomes easily mixed up with helplessness in a crisis, because sometimes a 14-year-old cannot do everything that an adult can do. And maybe that 14-year-old will feel responsible for his or her family, but maybe he is just not able to do those things that other adults can do for his or her family. So this is like a feeling of deep helplessness.
Albania. Ой.
Yes, is there a question or is just someone forgot to mute themselves? Okay, I will go on. Yeah, so as they grow, their intense grief grows also, because they can, at these times they can experience different types of emotion more deeply, more intensely. They feel happiness more intensely, but they will feel grief more intensely because of the hormones, which I wouldn't go in because it's very complicated. But one thing that I find very important to talk about is often we think about teens as little adults, but they are very not little adults. They might act, they might behave as adults, they might dress as adults, but actually biologically they are not yet ready to be adults. Like there's a part of the brain, the prefrontal cortex, which is responsible for the control and decision making, and it doesn't really develop until 20, 21 years old. So the teens are just biologically not able to control themselves sometimes. So they have a weak decision making, which we can see as a risk-taking behavior or aggression or avoidant behavior, which is you can see here in the slide, that is very common. And during a crisis, these kind of behaviors would be more intense. Like risk-taking behavior could be a very young boy to try to join the army, or we can see it as self-destructive behavior because they cannot they cannot work with that intense aggression, so they would turn against themselves, because, well, they know that we don't hurt others, we don't cause pain to others, so they turn against themselves. And this is very, very common, and we have to look for those signs, like little cuts on the arms or the legs, or they try to cover the cuts with different clothes. Maybe if you see a teen during summer in long sleeves and long trousers, it can also be a sign. Don't confuse it with fashion. I'm not saying that long sleeves is not fashionable in summer, but we have to be attentive to those kind of signs. As their cognitive function develop, they can experience major shifts in their view of the world, as they have deeper understanding of how the world works, and they have deeper understanding of political and historical facts, and they are more open to discuss those kind of changes. I have another example. I've met a boy. He was 16 years old, and he would talk about constantly himself, how his hair was, how he wasn't content with his looks, how he didn't like his clothes. And during one of our therapy sessions, after a long rant how he didn't like himself, he just suddenly stopped and said that, and I quote, "How can I worry about my looks when the authorities, are taking my neighbors, 3 little girls, to the children's home?" So then suddenly he just remembered some other people who are in seemingly more trouble, and he just suddenly he became very aware of himself, that his looks or how his hair was at that point wasn't that important as the fate of those 3 little girls, his neighbors. So that's I think it's a very good example, how their emotions can change very quickly, and how the train of thoughts can change very, very quickly. They can also sense a deep hopelessness about their present or about the future, and especially after a crisis. Recently, I've read an article which was about how the Russian-Ukrainian war affected Hungarian people, and especially Hungarian teens. And the article quoted a discussion between 2 girls who were traveling in a train, and they were talking about, one girl said that, "What do you think will happen? Will we have our final exams or what?" And the other replied, "Well, I don't know, maybe we all will die." And then they just continue to talk about other topics like clothes and something like that. And that's also a very good example that even though they are very afraid of their future, and they easily become very apathetic, because these kind of feelings are so heavy that it's more easy to deal with them with apathy, and easier to deal with it with just moving on to another topic. I don't want to talk about this because this is too heavy for me. So this is, I think, it's a very great example how they deal. They also become very defiant of the authorities and parents, and after an emergency, this would take to extreme levels, and they also start to rely more on their peers and friends for socializing, and it seems that they abandon their family, but actually they are just learning how to cope in a social environment. Okay. Do we have any questions?
Nothing in the chat, but
Okay.
I see one hand. Andrea, please go
Hello.
ahead. Yes.
I can share from my experience about the teenagers to give you how to say a frame and not pay attention to what 10% of community in the course. And here are the family, especially Ukrainians. And I'm working with children, of course, and I have several cases and about teenagers. I have one girl that was not feeling very well because of the mental health. And also,
Andrea, sorry, we cannot hear you very well. Something is wrong with your mic. Can you just try to fix it?
now,
No, we can hear something, but it's not really clear.
then I can text.
Yes, please. Thank you.
Okay, thank you. Thank you. I am very interested in what you're about to say. So, Ala, can you read it out loud when we get the text?
I can see another hand. There's Solly. Please go ahead.
Yeah, hi. I was just wondering if we could add to this list like severe isolation, withdrawing completely and only using internet and computer games and
Yes.
Yes, very, very important. Thank you very much. Yes, and I honestly meant to talk about this, but I just somehow mixed my notes together, so I cannot find it. Yes, it's very important. We see this trend that teens are more involved in virtual reality, and that also applies in a crisis situation. So thank you very much for highlighting it. It's very, very important. And in normal cases, we have to watch those kids because it's very, very important, because they won't learn those social skills, and they won't be able to grasp reality as it is, because they are all only living in the virtual reality. So it's a very, very important topic. So thank you again for bringing this to our attention.
no problem.
Yeah, I can read the Andrea comment.
Thank you.
Andrea said it was about a teenager and it's not an adult because of parents can put a lot of pressure on them. For example, asking them to take care of their younger sister, brothers, and not letting them, the teen, to have its free time.
Yes, exactly. And this is very typical in a crisis situation, that the adults just forget that they are still kids and they still have a lot to learn and still have a lot to experience. And we are so easily just rely on their help, because they want to help us. They want to do something because they have a sense of the crisis. They understand the crisis as they are cognitively developed, but still, it is very important to leave them time to be teenagers, and just act like teenagers, and live like teenagers, even in a crisis situation. Thank you for sharing. Is there anything else?
There's no other questions on the chat and no hands. I can see also Andrea, she said she continued. And in the same time, I had a teenager who said everything was okay, wonderful, till I arrived to the question about sleeping when she realized that she was struggling very much at this sector. And going deeper, we realized that she would need some support.
Yes, exactly. As we saw it in all age groups, teenagers are also in risk of sleep disturbances. And this is also because of their development. Usually we see teenagers who just easily can sleep through 10 hours without a problem, but there is a line where it becomes unhealthy and problematic, and after a crisis it's very common that they change their sleeping habits drastically, like from 10 hours they go to 5, and that can cause some severe problems. And that maybe because they cannot fall asleep because they are so afraid of what's going to happen, or they are worried about their friends or their loved ones, and they just ruminate in their head and just can't fall asleep for a very, very, very long time. And also there's the opposite, when a child only feels all right when he sleeps like 16 hours a day, once during the day, and for like 14 hours during the night. So that's also a sign that we have to be attentive to. Thank you. It's very, very important. Thank you for bringing this to the attention. Others?
No, all is good. You can continue,
Okay.
Qatar.
All right, let's exercise our brain a little. I would like you to choose an age group and think of an example. This can be an own experience. If you have children, maybe an experience with them, or if you work with children, then an experience with them. And just think about this emergency situation. And if you can remember, how did they react, or how did they behave after the crisis or the emergency? How did they communicate? Was there any changes in their behavior? So I would like you to ask to collect all the information about one example, and we will come back to these to the answers tomorrow, so you will have a little bit of time to think about your experiences. And tomorrow I will ask you to share a few examples, because we are very interested how in your cultures what do you experience, and how do you react to the children's reactions. So please just think of an example. It doesn't have to be a case study, just in like 4 or 5 sentences, like the others shared. Okay, and I have,
Qatar,
yeah,
I think we have one question on the chat, which is,
yes.
I'm wondering whether there's will be any particular age when kids are the most vulnerable for trauma. And I think this would be the next slide, though, right?
Mm-hmm.
Okay.
Well, yes.
But this is this
No,
would be
yeah.
this
This
would
is
be
what.
my part. That's fine.
Yeah, okay, so should I give this to you, or should I first give a short answer?
As you like.
Okay, so just in one sentence, I think that there is no age group that is more sensitive than the other, because as we saw, every age group is very sensitive. So there might be children who are more more resilient, who can react better to different kind of situations. But I think that there is no specific age group. There are specific types of vulnerabilities, which Allah will continue. So thank you for listening, and I will give the floor to you, Allah.
Thank you very much, Kata. However, I have one comment, but it seems that it's written in Ukrainian language or another language. So if anyone have the capacity to translate that for us, that would be perfect. Um, please, yes. Mm, yes, that's interesting. Thank you. Thank you. That's totally true.
Yes, also that is very common when they cannot stop talking about what happened, or they cannot stop talking at all. So yeah, thank you.
Okay, good. Thank you, Kata. So I think what we have discussed now and the different age group and how they interact or react to stressful situation is really important. This will give us some more insight how to build our MHBSS activities, how to talk to children, and how to figure out the warning signs that for children who was experience stressful situation or traumatic situation. I know that there is no specific particular age group that could be vulnerable to trauma. However, some studies says that infants could be more vulnerable than others because infants should be with their parents. So separating from their parents would be very, very life-threatening. So this is one of the theories, but of course it depends on a lot of risk factors, protective factors, the family situation, the social situation, the community situation. So it's a lot of things should be considered before we stigmatize or before we say, oh, this age group is more vulnerable than others. Okay, good. So let's continue our presentation, and uh, I want to share my screen now. Oh, I'm not sure. I don't think that you can see it, right? Please confirm that you can see my screen.
Yes, we can see.
Okay, perfect. So, staying in the topic of vulnerable children, there are some particular vulnerability criteria we could put it into consideration when we are working with children, like unaccompanied, separated, or orphan children. And this is a very common thing to be seen in the war and or active conflict situations, and children in institutions like SOS institutions and orphanage or child-friendly spaces or whatever institution that children could be. Also, children without birth registration, so without having the legitimate papers that will limit the child ability to be to access health services, education services, or social services. So a lot of services can be deprived, and this will not only affect the children, it also affect the family itself, because this will be a lot of burden on the parents, and also feeling the guilt that they cannot provide for their children. Another vulnerability criteria is children in conflict with the law, and also children living in absolute poverty, working children. And also children without access to education, children with disability or special needs, marginalized children, children in emergency setting, child mothers, and we can see child mothers in war situations as well. Also adolescents. As we could see from the presentation from Kata, that adolescents are very sensitive and particular age group that we should take into consideration while dealing with them, especially that they consider themselves as adults and they have the right to make decisions. So without any war zone or vulnerability or whatever, they're a difficult age group to deal with. So can you imagine if we add to that a conflict or a migration or refugee status. Child-headed household. I'm not sure if you have ever seen child-headed household in your work with within the emergency happening right now with the conflict. Anyone saw this type of situation? Like you see 15 years old or 16 years old who's the head of the house because the both parents are not there. Okay. That's good that you did not see that. That's perfect. Hopefully, we will not see it. Children with severe emotional and social reactions. So this would be the particular vulnerabilities, and of course, there's a lot of other things that we need to take into consideration when we are working with children and put it into our mind and to be very mindful while working with children or building our MHPSS intervention or doing an MHPSS training or a PFA training to either teachers or social workers or health workers. So we need to alarm the people who's directly working with children to keep their eye onto this particular group. And what also we have discussed in the previous slides, that when we talked about the specific reactions into stress in a different age group. This is really, really important. And I think when some of you are leading trainings to providers, to caregivers, to school teachers, to social workers, you need to be very, very specific into those reactions and go through them and give them the time to know, to understand how children will react into stress. So this is really important. Any questions so far? Okay. So because we are a big group and because we have different levels in the participants, some of the participants are already trainers, some of them are already MHPSS officers or technicals. So some of you might say that, okay, this is not new. I know what is MHPSS. However, we have to go through what is MHPSS just to consider that this training is specifically tailored to the people who will provide PFA training in the future for the people who's working with children, like as we say, like school teachers, social workers, health caregivers. So this should be covered in all aspects. So MHPSS, and which is the mental health and psychosocial support. And as we all know, it's a group of activities that are tailored to enhance the psychosocial support and the mental well-being of a specific group of not specific, to many group of people. And this would mean a different layers of interventions, and the layer of interventions, of course, goes under the MHPSS pyramid, under the Red Cross, Red Crescent movement. However, we have also another pyramid, which is the Interagency Standing Committee, and there's some specific differences, but that does not mean that they are completely different. No, there's a little bit of similarities. I will go through that in the next slide. We need to protect and promote psychosocial well-being, and we need to prevent or treat mental health conditions. So when we say MHPSS, that means that we're going into positive psychosocial well-being. We need to promote the well-being of a child or promote for different age group, but promote it, like how we can promote psychosocial well-being. I want one person to tell me how to promote psychosocial well-being. Come on, big group of people. Any hands, Kata?
Maybe just the basic promotion of positive social support networks and positive social interactions. It's a big resource.
Perfect. Yes. Any other comment?
No, no comment.
Okay. So positive mental well-being or psychosocial well-being, it could be reached in a different ways. Some of them are raising awareness, some of them is delivering programs, working and integrating MHPSS or the well-being into different programs. There's a lot of integration into education, especially when we're talking about the agency, the interagency network for education and emergency. They're doing a lot of work on the social emotional learning. So we don't have someone who's actually has a problem, but we are promoting the well-being, like how you're aware of your own emotions, how you can use your self-care, how you can have this emotional regulation. So a lot of things that people in general need to learn, and sometimes we forget to give this information to children because we learn it through life as an adult, but we forget to give that information to children. And somehow, of course, it's different because of all conditions, risk, and protective factors. However, this should be embedded in the education system. This is where the integration come from. So we need to integrate MHPSS into different sectors, and education is one of the things that we need to integrate MHPSS or the positive psychosocial well-being. Of course, we are promoting the well-being, and then we are working with psychosocial problems and distress. This does not go into the mental health condition. So the people, they're not the people with social problems. Like everyone have social problems or psychosocial problems, like sleep problems, like isolation. So it's a problem or distressors that can happen, and we need to start working on that. How we are going to work on that? Many of you is working on that. I am sure of that. One example, one activity that goes into psychosocial problems and distress.
So you already mentioned psychoeducational activities for kids learning certain self-help skills or learning about emotions with their peers. Yeah.
Perfect.
And
This is Monica from
Lithuania.
Hi. Okay, perfect. Yes, that's totally correct. And also, when we say psychosocial problems, we could use many different activities, many different interventions that could be used. And one of the example, it could be teaching the people or teaching the children sleep hygiene. Maybe the triangle of emotion, and behavior and thoughts. There's a lot of things that could be like we don't want to go into specific or focused group therapies or group activities, but it could be something that more specific into a psychosocial problem. And there's a lot of examples for that you could be taking and provide. And we will talk more in specific on the third day of this train. Okay, the third one is common mental health conditions. And common mental health conditions, it will not be a lot. It will not reach into the severe mental health conditions and disability. Common, it means maybe an anxiety, maybe depression. So this is something that a lot of people could experience. And of course, we could build some mental health and psychosocial interventions around that. And of course, uh, the PFA or psychological first aid can work on the positive well-being, on the psychosocial problems, on the in the common mental health condition, as of course for the severe mental health condition. So PFA can go through all of this, just to make it very clear. And at the end, we go to the severe mental health conditions and disabilities, which is a little bit more complicated, more specialized, which is I'm not sure if a lot of national societies are already providing specialized services. And when we say specialized services, that means that we need specialized providers like psychiatrists, psychologists, and it could be one-to-one, it could be group, and psychiatric nurses. So this is the type of intervention that could be implemented through this severe mental health conditions. Any questions so far? I can see people still getting in. It's too late.
I think some of people are just kicked out and they're just entering in.
Okay.
Some of them are the same.
Okay. So here we can see the famous pyramid. All of us are seeing this in one way or another. However, I thought maybe it's good to use some of the previous presentations that I saw a lot of my colleagues used, and I felt this is really, really interesting, because when we talk about the different layers of intervention, here it can give you a specific interventions that could be, or not interventions, like specific intervention areas that could be integrated. You could see here we have the GBV, gender-based violence, that could be implemented in all layers of intervention. We have the child protection area that could be integrated into starting from the focus to the psychosocial symptoms to the specialized that could be integrated. We have also the mind action and community-based protection, which could be integrated into the basic, focused, and the psychosocial support. And of course, we have healthcare and nutrition. Of course, it's here and there. However, from my perspective, it could be for the fourth intervention layers, because when we say healthcare, the people are providing the first line intervention in everything. So if someone is going to a health center and this person is taking their child for a vaccination, assuming that the vaccination is happening in the health center or the primary health center, and the nurse there or the healthcare provider, they notice that this baby has maybe physical abuse or a different behavior than normal, or a different reaction, or anything that could be alarming from the thing that learned here. And this is our target. We need to teach the healthcare providers, we need to teach, or not to teach, or learn, support these people how they can detect a problem, and then this will help to deal better with the children, to detect, and of course refer and support the families more. So this would be this could be one of the things that could be implemented. That's why, from my perspective, I believe healthcare and nutrition should be on all the layers of intervention. Of course, MHPSS, it's between all sectors. That's why we say integration all the time. Integration in CVA, integration in CAA, integration in migration, and everything. Everyone who is working directly with beneficiaries, and I could say now specifically with children, should be trained on MHPSS, on PFA, should be someone who can understand how to deal with children and how to detect children in distress. So of course, in a different level, coordination is really important between different sectors. Any questions so far? Okay, good. Kata, how are we doing with time?
Very, very good. We have a lot of time left.
Oh, great. That's because we put a lot of time for interaction and questions. But maybe tomorrow it will be a different story. Maybe people will come tomorrow prepared for more interaction. Okay, so skills and qualities of frontliners and community-based MHPSS workers. What are the qualification of people that should be would be around children? Of course, we need people with specific education, professional qualities. However, in crisis, this is not really always available. That we cannot say, you're working with children, you need to have the specific qualifications, because we don't have that luxury. That's why we're trying to build the capacity of our volunteers, of our staff, for our people who's working directly with the beneficiaries. And also we need someone who's grounded in childhood development. So we don't want you to be a child psychologist or someone who understands the theory behind the child development. However, if a person who's working with children, and there is a chance that one of the service providers or the service or the people that you're providing service to could be children, you need to be grounded about the different age categories and how they are, and how is the development, childhood development during this different age categories, and at the same time how people are how children in different age categories react to stress. This is one of the things that we need to emphasize and should be included in your trainings in the future for any professionals or frontliners. Various professionals all play important roles. So of course, I don't want to repeat myself. A lot of people play an important role. We talk about social workers, teachers, psychologists, activity facilitators, youth group leaders, healthcare workers. We're talking about nutritionists and faith leaders. So there's a lot of groups that could play a role. And when we try to do some PFA training, we need to include this type of or this categories. I know that the national societies who are included in the third component of the EU4Health are required to do the PFA or PFA for children for the service provider, including social worker, teachers, and maybe healthcare workers, right? So these three categories, or maybe more, should be trained on PFA for children. Our suggestion would be that people who have PFA in general could be easily trained on a PFA for children. However, they need to have the basic PFA first and then go to the PFA for children with a specific tailoring to the child development and how to react with children, which will be all explained tomorrow. So this is the things that we need to take into consideration. Anyone who is planning to do PFA for children training, just raise your hand, please.
I see 3 hands, 4,
Okay, 4, good.
and more.
Oh, no, good. Can you write your name in the chat, the one who's planning to do PFA for children? Like who's taking this information to implement directly after this?
I see Monica from Lithuania, Soli from Iceland.
Yes, perfect. I will take a look afterward in the chat, because this is interesting, and we can use this information for tomorrow and the day after. Okay.
Ala, since you were asking for interaction, can I bring up a thought or a question?
Yes, Solly, please.
So I'm thinking, like, when we are going to train these people, that that you have listed here, and I think this cultural sensitivity is also a part of the missing link, because sometimes they would maybe not be aware that there's a cultural difference, or that the children are reacting differently, or maybe respecting authority like too much and saying yes, maybe when they mean no. So like these kind of small things. So I'm wondering, like, how to integrate this cultural sensitivity part into our PFA for children training. And do you have some thoughts on this?
Yes. Thank you, Solly. That's really important question, and this will be covered by tomorrow's topic. So this is one of the things that we're going to discuss tomorrow. But thank you for raising that. That's
Okay,
really important.
thank you.
I can see hands, but I'm not sure if this is related to if you are going to do PFA or you have a question. If you have a question or comment, please unmute your mic and just ask.
I think Allah, and there was someone else who was raising the hand.
Please, someone
Okay.
else, go ahead. Okay, that's fine. We still have chance tomorrow to discuss, so no worries. Because tomorrow it will be more focused on the PFA in specific, so so a lot of information will be shared tomorrow. Okay, good. So moving to the next slide. So building on the previous one, how can health and school professionals contribute to children's well-being and mental health? So this is a question that I want you to think about now, and maybe we can take 2 to 3 contributions, because this is really important, because I know that you are in the field. You're the people who know why did you decide to train school professionals? Why did you decide to train health professionals? How do you think this will enhance the children's well-being? So anyone care to participate and say something? And this would be something from your own experience, like why did you decide to do it and how do you think it will help? I saw some hands, but I'm not sure.
So as you mentioned,
Yes, Ludmila.
oh,
Monica, please. Yeah.
I just wanted to mention early detection and connecting to other professionals, which you already also mentioned, but that's really important.
Okay, good. So why we decided on these 2 categories? Because they have a direct contact. And when your child at home, and maybe a lot of you can relate, when you have a child at home and they have problem like not sleeping well, or any other problem, the first thing that we do, like we talk to the health professional, or we talk to the school professional, or the school teacher, or the school counselor. So this is our first interaction as a parent, how we can discuss the children concerns, and at the same time they are the people who is dealing the most with children. So this would be one of the things that could be the reason of choosing school professionals and health professionals to be trained on
Yeah.
PFA. Yeah.
Allah, I think Ludmila has hands up.
Yes, please go ahead.
Ludmila? Yeah. Now she's not.
She
Okay,
doesn't want to
anyways.
talk anymore.
I
Okay.
think it was accidentally up or yeah,
Okay.
anyways, keep going. Sorry.
No, that's fine.
Sorry, I see some comments. Can I read them to you?
Yes, please, Kata, go ahead.
Okay, so Amira writes, by raising awareness about the importance of mental health, organizing tributes, and talking to children.
Mhm.
Agnieszka writes to introduce some activities when kids could meet and talk. And someone else writes, monitor more the mental and physical health of children and step in when needed. And someone else writes, school is a normal and regular place for children where they spend a lot of time, a great place to observe changes. And someone else writes, supporting children who experience more difficulties.
Yes. Perfect. That's amazing. I really like that that we think about the health professionals of someone who can contribute positively to the mental well-being. And also when we say health professional, it's a little bit also detection of somatic concerns, because a lot of kids react somatically to stress reactions. So they will have tummy pain, they will have a headache, they will have a vomiting. So a lot of somatic signs and symptoms could be psychological by origin, not coming from a disease. That's why the healthcare professional are should be trained, or need to be trained on MHPSS and PFA for children. In addition, for school professionals, a lot of reactions happen in the classroom, or with the counselor. Could be translated into psychological distress, which means low academic performance, which means bullying. There's a lot of things that could be translated into a problems, or psychological or psychosocial problems, that the school professional should be aware of, and they could be contributing to detection, awareness, referrals, and also they could play a very important role in intervention. They could do a basic intervention within the schools that could enhance the mental well-being and and the mental health of the children.
I see
Any
some
other?
other comments.
Yes, please.
Children spend most of their time at school. Teachers often see changes that parents may miss. Very important. Prevent further harm, e.g., bullying.
Yes,
To
perfect. That's a
introduce
perfect one.
some activities which develop their self-efficacy.
Yes.
And colleagues, if you would like to ask questions in Ukrainian language, feel free to do so, and our interpreters will translate them.
Yes. So I'm going through the comments again, but I can see a lot of comments, which is feed into the thing that we are talking to. Amanda is also talking about integrating MHPSS into school systems, which is great, which is one of the things that we think should be integrated. And there's a lot of guidelines how to do, as I said, the social, emotional learning inside the school. Um, I would share a lot of handouts, so don't be overwhelmed about the things that we will be sharing. And also building something inside the schools. It's not easy, because we're dealing with a different entity. We're dealing with an educational entity who has different priorities. So you need, as a national society, you need to have a good relationship with the education sector, maybe education sector within the national society itself, and of course within the authorities. So this interlinkage and collaboration should be happening. And of course the same happen for the health care providers. I always say go for basic PFA interventions, like just sensitize the school teachers, sensitize the healthcare workers on PFA and how to talk to children and how to effectively communicate and detect children in need of psychosocial support. This would be amazing. This would, even if you think that it is the minimum, but it could help a lot. So this would be our advice to you. But of course, this would be further discussed tomorrow and the day after tomorrow. So concluding this slide, any other comments or question? Perfect. So I think this would be the, yes. So this would be concluding the first day. So in recap, today we have discussed what is MHPSS for children, what are the stress reactions for children, what are the role of school professionals and healthcare professionals to enhance the mental well-being of children. These are the topics that we have discussed today. And of course, this is all introduction. Tomorrow it will be the PFA for children in specific, and I would encourage you tomorrow, all of you, to attend. However, it's as I said in the email, as we said in the email, this training is for people who already have PFA in specific, and now they will have PFA for children. And it is directed for the trainers who are going to provide PFA for children in the future, or supporting PFA for children in their national society. So I would love to see all of you tomorrow. I would like to also encourage you to do your homework. Kata was really nice. She didn't want to say homework, but we want you to think about one example of stress reactions, a specific age group of children, and share it with us tomorrow. Of course, I'm aware that we're a big group of people, so it might be that we cannot go through all of it. But however, sharing it via email, via chat, or sending it to Coursera, to myself, and we can have all of these examples. This is really important for us to build upon this training and enhance it. So we would love to hear from the ground, from the people in the field, from the people who have the actual experience. Yeah, and uh, before saying salam, it means peace in my language, but I love this word because it's a very nice way to say, instead of saying goodbye, we say peace. So any question, comments, concerns, something that you want us to do it differently maybe tomorrow, so we can change a little bit of our approach, just feel free. We have 8 minutes. I would assume everyone is satisfied. Okay, perfect. Thank you. So, okay, so enjoy your rest of the day. I'm not sure if it's evening. Here is evening. So, see you tomorrow at 2 p.m. Eastern time, like Central European time. صح? Is it that the correct way to say it? Yeah. Okay.